heal and transform the Middle East. So again, good morning, Rabbi, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
In a piece for Salon.com, you talk about how you are mourning Judaism, writing in part, quote, increasing numbers of Jews have abandoned the religion of compassion and identification with the most oppressed, and instead come to worship power and to rejoice in Israel's ability to become the most militarily powerful state in the Middle East. Explain what you mean.
Well, Judaism came into the world as a critique of the empire and the view of the world that says that security can be achieved through domination and power over others. And it came with a different vision and said, no, security can be achieved through love and care. And our Torah says, when you go into your land, remember to love the stranger, not just live peacefully. Love the stranger, treat the other with real caring and respect. Unfortunately, Israel's occupation of the West Bank and the blockade of Gaza has been the opposite. It has been a policy of oppression and domination without any serious attempt to negotiate a final peace agreement. And and for years, Israel has complained that there was no point in negotiating with the Palestinian Authority because they didn't really represent Hamas.
Rabbi,
then Hamas agreed to be part of the negotiations, and Israel cut it off.
Let me ask you this. Hamas is a terrorist organization.
And I have no sympathy for them.
So you're not
Yes.
talking about Hamas, the love and care part, right?
No, of course not. But the way to end this struggle is to end the occupation of the West Bank and the blockade of Gaza. And I understand why Hamas is not jumping for the ceasefire accord right now, because while the blockade has gone on, the people of Gaza have suffered terribly. Hundreds of children dying every month of malnutrition because the blockade keeps them from getting the food and the equipment that is needed for adequate health care in Gaza. So I don't support Hamas. I think Hamas is a terrible and oppressive force there. But the central issue is the occupation, and the occupation and the blockade have to end, and it can end. That's what, in Embracing Israel-Palestine, my book, I lay out some of the terms of how that could happen. And,
well, let me ask you
Israel
this.
knows that.
Who do you think, Rabbi, is more to blame for so many casualties and deaths in Gaza? Is it Israel or Hamas?
Well, look, Israel has been targeting, claiming to target the bad guys. But meanwhile, they have killed 1,000 civilians. They have hurt, they have wounded over 6,000 civilians, and it's inevitable if you're going to make a war against the people. After all, Hamas, the Palestinians don't have an army, they don't have an air force, they don't. So where are they? Of course, they're located in the people. This is the people's rebellion against the oppression
I also want to get to your final point in the Salon.com article. You also write it's okay for Jews to say they don't believe in God, that they will be welcomed. But if they question Israel, they're labeled self-hating. And as you know, Jon Stewart parodied that recently after he condemned an Israeli attack on Gaza. Have you encountered this sort of criticism?
Totally. Whenever I or anybody else speaks out again, to critique Israeli policy, it's as though we were critiquing God. A large number of American Jews have given up on God after the Holocaust. I don't blame people for feeling that God abandoned them during the Holocaust, but instead they've given up on the notion that God taught us, which is that the world should be based on love, on generosity, on caring. This is the essence of the Jewish message, and that message has been abandoned. Instead, people give blind loyalty to the state of Israel, even though Israel has continued to expand its settlements in the West Bank and has no intention of getting out and allowing the Palestinians a real state, and have done everything they could to block it. That's a tragedy, but the biggest tragedy is for Judaism itself, because when Judaism is represented by the Israeli army as though this is what Judaism is about, it's a desecration of God's name, an abandonment of our Torah, an abandonment of our highest values.
Rabbi Michael Lerner, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. So to come in the newsroom, radical Islamists eager to increase their territory in the Middle East are looking far